Welcome to True Crime with Strategic Eyes.
Strategic back again. What's going on, guys? Hope you guys had a great week so far. Week is almost over, man. What is it, Thursday or something like that? My watch is dead. That's the thing with these smart watches. If you don't charge them like every other day, you look at your wrist and the watch is dead. Whatever. So I think it's Thursday. Is it Thursday? I don't know. I need to figure this out. It is, in fact, I'm like stopping the whole show to get the date. It is Thursday. It is definitely Thursday. So the week is almost over. I'm so happy. I'm really tired, man. I'm really tired and I'm really just need a break. I think I need to take a vacation in February or something like that. Like I chose my vacation days and I didn't choose all the vacations that I'm qualified to choose for contractually because I was like, all right, I'm trying to save some time or something, or maybe take a 2-week vacation or something like that. I don't know if I'm going to make it, guys. I'm stressed. I'm tired. I think I'm going to need to take something in February. We'll see. I'll figure it out. Anyway, I got a really good show for you guys today. Real good show. I want to give you guys some inside information. I want to talk about Robert Brooks. I want to give you guys an update, an exclusive update on the Robert Brooks case that you're not going to get from anybody else. You're not going to get it from anybody else because not that many people have the inside knowledge that I have from having worked for the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision Office of Special Investigations. So I want to bring you guys up to speed on the Robert Brooks case for anybody who's just experiencing this case for the first time. And I also want to tell you a little bit about my background. And then I'm going to tell you some of the information that I was able to get on this case. So I know a lot of people covering it, and this is good. It's important. But I've largely tried to stay out of it. Like I covered this. I gave you guys an in-depth coverage of this. I played the video. I got demonetized for the video, the whole nine, just to make sure that you guys were able to actually see what happened in this case in its entirety, right? No hiding, no censoring, whatever. Go check that video out. But I haven't covered it because there was nothing probative to add, right? There's nothing for me to add to tell you guys as to where the case is going, if it's moving forward. Until now, I have that information now, or at least some type of information to shed some light on what's happening behind the scenes. But now that we have that information, we're going to share it with you guys. So a little bit background on me before I show you guys some stuff, and then we talk more about this. You guys know that I am a detective. I work for a police department. But before going into policing, I worked as a correction officer for the New York State Department of Corrections. I can talk about that because I'm no longer employed with them. And I did that for like 2 to 3 years. And after that, I went into the investigative wing of the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. When I started, it was just the New York State Department of Corrections. Then I think it was Cuomo merged both agencies. And then the parole agency was its own agency, and corrections, and Cuomo merged them. I believe it was Cuomo. It was either Cuomo or Pataki. One of these guys. I don't know. No, it wasn't Cuomo. I think it was, what's the guy? The Love Gov? The guy who had sex with the prostitutes with his socks on? And is it Wiener? I don't know. I forgot the guy's name. Anyway, the Love Gov merged the Department of Corrections and Parole, and then it became the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision. People who are not from New York are like, what is this guy talking about, the Love Gov? Listen, politics in New York gets crazy, okay? Our politicians do the worst, all right? They definitely are very interesting characters, right? So his claim to fame, the Love Gov, Andrew Weiner, was that whenever he had his liaisons with his call girl, he loved to keep his dress socks on, all right? He took everything else off. He was in his birthday suit when he's making love to his sugar baby, but he loved keeping on his dress socks. I guess he didn't like his toes getting cold during the deed, whatever. Long story short, they merged the agencies, and then it became the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, formerly Parole, Community Supervision. And I got to say, when we first merged, I hated parole officers, guys, because they were the rudest people. Like at the time, our pay grade was lower than the parole officers, because parole officers have to, it's like a social work kind of position. So New York pays parole officers more than correction officers, right? So my first day going into a parole office to do an investigation, I never forget this because sometimes it's your own people that do you wrong, right? It was in the Bronx, New York. I don't Bronx 1, I don't know. I forgot how it's called or whatever. And if this guy is watching this, screw you, dude. But anyway, first day going in there, I'm just excited. I'm like, oh, and I was pretty young. I was in my early 20s. And I'm like, hey, I'm an investigator. I wasn't a senior at the time. I was just an investigator doing sex crimes. And I come in because there was an allegation of a parole officer having intercourse with a parolee, which is under the purview of our investigative authority. So I go in there and I'm introduce myself, and this guy, this big black tall guy, I'm a big black tall guy too, so look how I'm sounding, but big black tall guy, and I'm talking like that because I don't like the guy. Screw you, dude. I still hate you to this day. He shakes my hand, and when he shakes my hand, he holds it. And usually people do that when they want to tell you something, they want to compliment you, or they're just interested in getting to know you. It's kind of like just a gesture that people do, but it's not done that often. He holds it. So I give him my attention. So I'm looking at him. He's like, let me ask you a question, brother. And I was like, sure, what's going on? He was like, what grade are you? I was like, grade 14. That's what the grade was at the time. Might still be the same. I don't know. He's like, well, I'm a grade 18. I was like, okay. He was like, what's your level of education? At that time, I had not got my college degree. I had just had a few years of college, but I haven't graduated yet. And I wasn't even going to school at the time. I had a few years of college under my belt, but I didn't go back to school to get my degree like I do now. And he goes, I was like, I haven't got my degree yet, but I got some college experience. I'm asking, why is he asking me? Because I'm kind of like, I like to see the best in people at times. But clearly he was setting me up. And this was in front of a whole bunch of other minority parole officers. And he goes, so what authority they give you to come investigate me? You don't even have a college degree, and you're a grade 14, and I'm a grade 18. What kind of crap is that? And I was like, whoa, brother. So I took the race card on him. I was like, you a black man like me. I'm a black man coming in here just doing a job. I'm not Wiener. I'm not the state legislature. I'm not the commissioner of corrections or the former commissioner of parole. I was like, I'm just a worker bee, just like you. I'm coming here to do a job, and you disrespecting me. You don't even know me. I'm like, what kind of shit is that? I got pissed because I was a hothead when I was growing up. I'm not going to lie to you. When I was in my 20s, I was a hothead. That's why I was in corrections. It is what it is. I'm not taking ish from nobody. So anyway, later on, the guy comes like, yo, I'm sorry. But I think it was a disingenuous sorry because he thought that because I had authority. Because even though I was underneath him in terms of my pay grade, I was operating under the authority of the commissioner. And in corrections, it don't matter what level you on. If you get the authority of the commissioner, I technically outrank you and I can actually refer you to get disciplined. So he disrespected somebody who had higher authority, who was basically an extension of the commissioner. So I think he had that conversation with somebody. Then he wanted to apologize to me. I was like, man, I don't feel your apology is genuine. Just leave me alone. And he went about his business. That's how people who's supposed to be like you act. That's why I don't operate on the colors and all that stuff. I just operate on a human level. Because there'll be people who look like you, people who don't look like you, will be your worst enemy. Look at me, this young black man who made it out the projects, made it out the hood, is here doing a professional job and a good job at it, and here's this person who's older than me, who's supposed to be one of the elders. He's pushing me down due to politics. He's upset with me when I have no power. Anyway, I'm sorry I went into that diatribe or whatever of what happened, but that was my experience with parole. Since that day, I never liked parole. Every time I dealt with those people, they were always very smug, and they did a terrible job, really. They do a terrible job. I'm not going to lie to you. So if there's any parole officers from New York State watching, I'm sorry. I met a lot of you who are really nice people, but a lot of you guys are very smug, and a lot of you guys are very disrespectful. And, it is what it is. So I feel for the inmates that have to report to you because, if you can't be respectful to your colleagues, how are you going to be respectful to these people who are coming to you for help to just trying to be free and build their lives up? But anyway, whatever. Let's keep going. So that's what I did for a while. And then I went on to be a senior investigator of the Sex Crimes Division for many years, where I took cases and also supervised people who work in the Sex Crimes Division for cases that happen in parole and on the streets. And I was also a trained crime scene technician, which means that I could go and do crime scene on crime scenes, whatever that happened inside of the prison system or whatever. So sometimes I would be used for other units' cases. as a senior investigator and a crime scene technician, they would, use me to detect their crime scenes, to gather evidence, to take pictures. And so I did a case with the late great Frank. You guys know I've spoken about Frank on this channel before. The late great Frank, we love Frank. Frank passed away, and Frank had a very big case. And this was a case that was exactly like Robert Brooks's case. Before Robert Brooks, the only thing is that the inmate did not die. And this beatdown happened at Downstate Correctional Facility, which is a facility that's now closed in the Fishkill area of New York. I don't know why they closed it, because that's a massive prison that was relatively new in the New York State prison catalog. So it was almost like a waste of money. The prison's like opened in like the 70s or the 80s, and most New York State prisons been around since the 30s, 40s, and 50s. So why close one of your newest prisons? But I don't know. Maybe there's operating things that I'm not aware about. But it displaced a lot of officers, so I feel very sad for those officers who got displaced because their job got closed down. But anyway, I'm going to bring this up for you guys so you guys could see the history that I've had with this organization, so you can understand the authority. All these stories I'm telling you is showing you my authority to speak on this subject, right? We're going to get there. We're going to get there. All right. Let's keep going. Big shout out to we got Far in the building. What's happening? Big shout out to you and everybody else who's in there. All right. So this case I worked with the late great Frank, my man Frank. I'm not gonna say his last name, even though he passed away. I don't want anybody reaching out to his family, but the late great Frank. I love Frank. He was a great guy. I spoke about him, about his funeral, about his passing, about other things in the past videos. Got nothing love for Frank, but Frank worked this case here. And in this case, it was a group of officers who attacked an inmate and resulted in that inmate getting severely beaten, punctured lung, the whole nine. 2 former Fishkill correction officers faced prison sentences for their involvement in a 2013 violent attack on a downstate correctional facility inmate and falsifying records to cover it up. A federal judge in Westchester County, this went to the feds, guys. The feds handled this case as well. Federal judge in Westchester County on Monday sentenced Kathy Scott to 8 years and 4 months in prison. Federal prison, guys. And while George Santiago Jr. got 7 years and 3 months in prison. Scott Santiago and 3 other former guards at Downstate Correctional Facility were charged with repeatedly punching and kicking inmate Kevin Moore after he questioned why he was being placed in a mental health unit overnight. The 54-year-old Moore suffered face fractures, broken ribs, and a collapsed lung. He spent 17 days in prison. I'm going to tell you the real story with this one. Before I didn't even transfer it over. Here you go. That's what I'm looking at. Let me tell you guys the real story of what happened with this situation. It's similar to this, but the real story, this is from the inside. This case has already been adjudicated and closed. It was not my case. I was not the lead investigator on this case. And I don't work for this agency no more, and they didn't make me sign no NDAs or nothing like that. So I'm going to tell you a real story in this case. So this guy, to my understanding, to my knowledge, all right, allegedly, okay? To my knowledge, to my understanding, allegedly, from what I got from talking to these guys about this case. These guys were like a part of that beat-up squad. And this Moore guy had just came from Rikers Island. And on Rikers Island in New York City, these inmates, they run the island. We've read and we heard about all these tragedies and all the assaults on staff and all the stuff, all the gangs that's running down Rikers Island, that the federal government is in charge of Rikers Island right now, like they're under conservatorship and all that stuff. Rikers Island is not well managed and run. But New York State Corrections is well managed and run. And there's a lot of discipline in New York State Corrections, and there's a big divide between the inmates and the officers. And there's like this boundary, like people don't cross. The officers understand that if they cross certain lines, there might be repercussions from the inmates. The inmates understand that if they cross certain lines, the officers will enact reprisals on them. And at the end of the day, the officers are going to win. The motto we used to have is, you could take the jail at any time, but we're going to end up taking it back, and you might lose your life in the process of us taking it back. We're going to take it back. That's what was said. I don't know who's this. Put it on pause. Let me see what it says. It's a weird number, but so I was like, let me pick it up. And then it ended up being part of my loan processing team because they want to help me out with the loan processing that I did not apply for. The loan, we got to do something about these prank callers, man. I mean, with these scammers, whatever they are. But anyway, so this guy comes off the bus and they talk in their ish like, yo, it's downstate. Y'all better behave yourself. We don't play that stuff here. This is not Rikers Island. You're not running the show. For those of you dudes who've been up here before, been to New York State Corrections, you better tell these dudes behave themselves because you're going to get hurt. And then this guy said something smart. This does not mean that he deserved what happened to him, but this Moore guy allegedly said something smart. And so these officers decided to make an example out of him. And so they beat him like there's no tomorrow. They ripped his dreads out. They had his dreads holding it up like this in the air on the camera. They went crazy on this guy. They beat him so badly that the next day or a few days later, he had to go down to Rikers Island for court. And then the Rikers Island officers was like, whoa, we're not taking this guy. Because they're like, if we put this guy on our bus, these are two different agencies, right? New York State, that's where he's at. And then these Rikers Island guys come to pick him up to take him down to New York City for a different case that he had. And the Rikers Island guys like, we're not taking this guy. That's how this thing blew up. Because the Rikers Island guys like, we're not taking this guy. Nope. They refused to take him. And also, they're not taking him. He's fine. He just got a little beaten up from the fight he had. They're trying to cover it up, lying on paperwork and all that stuff. And the Rikers Island cops was smart. Those correction officers for Rikers Island, they were like, no. This man is not coming into our custody because if we take him into our custody, that means we own him. And that means that people are going to say that we did this to him. Nope, we did not do this to this man. He's not coming. And that's when everything blew up. Now, I helped take crime scene photos for this case to help out Frank. So that was my involvement in this case, to help out Frank. I took crime scene photos. I saw the photos of the dude, took pictures of the guy, took pictures of the scene, took picture of the area, the whole nine. That was my contribution to this case. So now, lastly, before we talk about the new discoveries that we have in this case, I want to go ahead and play for you guys what the family has said, because I'm a little torn on this case, and I'm going to tell you why I'm torn, and then I'll tell you the information that I have on this case, and, hopefully it adds to the discussion and explains a lot to people who are asking, why don't we have justice yet? Why hasn't these guys been arrested yet? I'm going to answer that question for you guys in a second. Let's go ahead and play this for you guys and get up to speed on this.
Robert Brooks' family is filing a civil rights lawsuit. It's against the 17 corrections officers and nurses who either took part in the beating or did nothing to stop it.
Robert Brooks died December 10th, just hours after being beaten by guards in the infirmary at Marcy Correctional Facility. Today, News 10 NBC investigative reporter Jennifer Lukey spoke with his son and brother for the first time.
The Brooks family and their attorney spoke with reporters here at the Doubletree Hotel in Henrietta earlier today. Robert Brooks's son and brother telling me that the past month has been devastating for their family. It's hard for anyone to watch the video of Robert Brooks being beaten by correction officers. But for those who knew and loved him, it was almost unbearable.
But as painful as it is important that the world sees these images. They have the power to spark the change we need.
Had you known before that any of the circumstances that led to your father and your brother's death?
And for the most part, they wouldn't give us any answers. So I would say for the first week or so, we were getting all of the news through the news in real time, which is, I find, kind of disrespectful a little bit. My brother had done 8 of the 12 years that he was sentenced to as seen fit in the eyes of the law. But the 17 individuals at Marcy Correctional Facility gave him a death sentence.
All right, hold on. I want to go back because I read something. Because I need to hear what they said because I'm torn on this case, and I'll tell you why I'm torn. I'm not torn on the need for justice. End of story. Robert Brooks was unjustifiably beaten to death. He was not sentenced to get beaten to death. So just a crime was committed and justice is required in this situation. I want to definitely make that clear because sometimes people get divided on racial and moral lines and they can't understand nuance, right? They're just like, oh no, this has to be done. Relax. Strategic Eyes is saying that what happened to Robert Brooks was unacceptable, okay? But but there's nuance here, and I want to capture that nuance. All right, so let me go back a little bit.
Have the power to spark the change.
For those who knew and loved him, it was almost unbearable.
But as painful as it is important that the world sees these images.
Right, now this is his son, and this is one of the things why I'm torn, because he tried to kill your mother, bro. He tried to kill your mother. This is the son of the woman who was stabbed multiple times by Robert Brooks. This is the reason why Robert Brooks is dead right now, is because he encountered some horrible demonic correction officers that deserve to be incarcerated probably for the rest of their life for what they did to him. But the reason why he was in the position to meet these demonic correction officers is because he tried to stab your mother to death, and now you're standing in front of us with tears in your eyes. I don't know how that makes sense. And I'm not saying it shouldn't make sense. I'm not in his position, but I don't know how that makes sense to me with my mindset and my morality that this man tried to murder your mother. Murder her, stab her like a dog on the side of the road multiple times. And by the grace of God, even though she was stabbed in her lungs, stabbed in her stomach, stabbed in vital organs, but by the grace of God and the skills of some of the best surgeons that probably ever lived, she's alive to this day. Yet you stand on this podium and cry for a man that for most of your life was incarcerated. You did not know him outside of incarceration. That is very confusing to me, but that does not take away from the fact that he was unjustly killed and that the people who killed him deserves to go to jail for the rest of their life. But let's keep going.
They have the power to spark the change we need.
Had you known before that any of the circumstances that led to your father and your brother's death?
And for the most part, they wouldn't give us any answers. So I would say for the first week or so, we were getting all of the news through the news.
I'm telling you right now, this is the brother. This is the son. They definitely are related. And he looks like his father, too. This is about money. Now, they deserve money. They deserve money. They deserve their lawsuit. They deserve their money. They deserve to be compensated. They deserve their 20 million, 15 million, whatever million these folks decide to pay them out. They deserve it. Because Robert Brooks was unjustly murdered in prison. But this is about money. This guy don't give a shit about his brother, I don't think. And I cannot fathom that this young man would love his father the way he's pretending to love his father, knowing what his father tried to do with his mother, and knowing that the mother's the one that raised you while he was in prison, the guy who tried to kill the person who raised you. That doesn't make any sense to me, guys. I don't see how this could be the real emotion that we're seeing here, considering the monster that Robert Brooks was. But let's keep going. Let's keep going.
In real time, which is, I find kind of disrespectful a little bit. My brother had done 8 of the 12 years that he was sentenced.
Now hold on here. That's not the Robert Brooks. They showing the wrong picture. Oh my God! That's Brooks from Atlanta. They showed the wrong picture. Oh my God! The news is ridiculous. Hold on here. Oh, they showing the wrong Brooks. They're showing the wrong Brooks. Oh my gosh. I'm pulling up right now. Atlanta. Oh my gosh. And I guess he's out the news. I'm seeing all these other people. So this is not the right Brooks. This Brooks right here is the Brooks that died in Atlanta by Officer Jared Rolfe. And listen, guys, I covered this case extensively. And Officer Jared Rolfe did nothing wrong. They fired Jared Rolfe. They charged him with murder against Mr. Brooks. And they ended up dropping the charges of murder, and they ended up rehiring Officer Jared Rolfe and giving him back pay for the 2 years that he was out of a job because they politicized this. This happened a week after George Floyd. And rather than people look at the facts of this case, they tried to turn Officer Jared Rolfe into another Derek Chauvin. But Derek Chauvin is Derek Chauvin. We all saw what Derek Chauvin did to George Floyd. We also saw on body-worn camera what Jared Rolfe did to Mr. Brooks here, but we also saw what Mr. Brooks did to Jared Rolfe. We saw that. We saw how Brooks beat up the officer and took his taser and shot the taser at him before the officer finally drew his firearm and shot him. We saw that. And anybody else who saw it knew that that officer should not be charged, and that's why that officer is still working in Atlanta to this day. He was villainized by the entire country. He was arrested, he was charged, he was fired from his job, and they had to reverse everything. And to this day, that officer is patrolling those streets of Atlanta, Georgia, because he was innocent of what he was accused of doing. And they're showing his picture instead of the real victim. It's kind of messed up because that real victim deserved to get his awareness. But let's keep going.
To as seen fit in the eyes of the law. But the 17 individuals at Marcy Correctional Facility gave him a death sentence. And that's just not fair.
You know, it says News 10
Robert,
NBC.
you mentioned you visited
Maybe it's like an out-of-state news agency. That's why they got that wrong. But let's keep going.
Your father in jail, in prison, during his time that he was incarcerated. Did he ever, to you, express concerns about his own safety behind bars?
No, my father was very protective, and even if he did feel he wasn't safe, he wouldn't tell me because he know how much I care about him and how worried I would have been.
Now the family says it's fighting for justice. Today, they filed a federal civil rights lawsuit against the 17 people who participated in the beating or did nothing to stop it. They're also watching and waiting for criminal charges to be filed.
The bottom line is, yes, we want them to get prosecuted, but we want them to do it the right way instead of not rushing it. So as far as the prosecution goes, we're trying to give them a little leeway. But yes, we want answers.
You know, my brother always used to tell me to err is human, to forgive is divine. And I'm not at forgiveness yet.
All right, so just to be 100% accurate, that's why I said Mr. Brooks, because I knew his name was not Robert Brooks, but his name is Rayshard Brooks. That is the man who was shot in Atlanta by Officer Jared Rolfe. This is Rayshard Brooks. All right, and that's the picture that they showed. They showed a picture of Rayshard Brooks. When in all actuality, I'm gonna get you guys the picture for this Brooks. So Robert Brooks, what's this? Marcy Correctional Facility. Get you guys a picture of that guy. You guys can see what he looks like. And then when this is done, I will show you guys. This is the guy right. That is the Brooks that we're talking about. That's also the Brooks that you'll see on this young man's pen. Notice he looks nothing like the picture that the news showed. All right, so let's get that out of there. Nothing like that picture. Looks nothing like. He looks like this guy. It looks nothing like this picture. Dude, that's Rayshard Brooks right there. All right, so now let's go ahead and finish this up so I can tell you guys the information that I have.
There's consequences and repercussions for your actions, and at some point those are coming, and I hope you're prepared.
Technically, the state is not allowed to be named in a federal civil rights lawsuit. That was what was filed today. But the attorneys for the Brooks family tell me they are preparing a separate lawsuit to sue the state of New York and the Department of Corrections, hoping to get some systematic changes within the prison system. In Henrietta, Jennifer Lukey, News 10 NBC.
All right. Oh, let's stop this before they demonetize the shoe, because they're about to play the video. Good. All right, so what do we know? Well, I was speaking to people that I know in the Office of Special Investigations, as well as folks that I know in the state police who have knowledge of the case. And what they have told me, and put this up right here behind me, is that there is internal turmoil that's going on with the investigation of this case. There's internal turmoil. This is the office I used to work for back in the day. Okay? Sit right back there. There's internal turmoil. And the internal turmoil is that this office behind me, my former office, they are not happy, the consensus from the top to the bottom, this is all alleged, they're not happy with the speed by which this investigation is going. The feeling is that state police is taking too long with the investigation. Also, my understanding is that the state attorney general's office has recused themselves, and there's a bit of commotion as to who's taking over the case, as in some special counsel. So the delay in charging is the speed by which the state police is moving with the investigation, and the delays that are happening with the state attorney general's office, who is recusing themselves from this investigation for whatever reason, and the appointment of a special counsel. Now, the understanding is that everybody involved wants to see this case result in arrest and a resolution, and that is what will happen. These officers are doomed. I hate to say it that way. But like if you work in a prison, the thought of going to prison is almost like doom. Like if you're a regular guy on the street, you've never been to jail, never been arrested, your fear is the unknown. The fear of a correction officer is the known. You've lived it. You know what it's like to be locked up. You know the fear that you could feel being around these apex predators. To now become one of these apex predators, or at least believed to be one by society from your actions, that is the biggest dread that you can get. The worst nightmare of a correction officer is to be arrested. Hilton Farr says AG pulled out because her office was defending 4 of them. In other cases, she can't prosecute her clients. Got you. So that makes sense. I missed that. So that makes sense. But so now they have to do a special prosecutor. That makes sense. So the delay is in these 2 agencies, not with corrections. Believe it or not, the agency that employed the people who killed Robert Brooks is the agency that's pushing the most to get justice as quickly as possible. And I'm not here shilling for these folks. This is what I'm told. They're the ones pushing the most. Like, why isn't this happening yet? What do you guys need? What can we do? Of course, they've afforded all the resources that they have to aid in the investigation. They've also partook in the investigation. It's a joint investigation between corrections, Office of Special Investigations, and the state police. And of course, the AG's office and the special prosecutor is going to be appointed. It's a collaborative investigation. And this office behind me is pushing. Why is it taking so long? And the delay is in these 2 other agencies. Now, I'm going to give you some inside information on my experience working for New York State Corrections. This does not surprise me that this happened. Corrections has problems. You guys know on this channel, I am the anti-racist person. I don't deal with in the world of racism. I don't believe that everybody out there is racist, and every time Black or Latino or Asian or whatever minority, whatever ethnic minority you can choose, I don't believe that every time an ethnic minority has a bad interaction with a Caucasian person that, oh, it's racism. Why can't people just not like a person because they just don't like that person? Why does it have to automatically be that you're not liked because of the color of your skin? So I don't live in that world, and I don't subscribe to that type of mentality that all negative interactions are due to racism. But I'll tell you this. I have worked in almost every single prison in my capacity of an investigator when I worked for New York State Corrections in the state of New York. There's almost 70 prisons. At least when I was working there was almost 70. There's much less now because they closed a lot of them down. I haven't worked there for almost a decade. Time is creeping fast. Well, not a decade, but 10 years. Time is creeping fast. I would pull up to some prisons in these obscure mountain regions deep in New York State, names that you've never heard of, with counties that have Indian names and towns that have Indian names too. But there's no Indian people in sight or Native American. I think it's derogatory now to say Indian, so I apologize for that. Or I think you can't even say Native American anymore. I think you have to say indigenous people. So to all the indigenous people out there, I apologize. I remember one time I made that mistake and I had a few indigenous people very upset with me. And it's like, how would you like if I said the N-word? I said, whoa, buddy. Is it really that synonymous with each other to say Native American is synonymous with that? Wow. But anyway, let's keep going. I've pulled up to some of those prisons, guys, and I've seen Confederate flags on these people's cars. Confederate flags on their license plates. Now, there was a debate a couple years ago about this stuff. Some people are like, oh, it's not about racism, it's about history and da-da-da. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I don't know how I feel about that, but I hear you. I listen to all sides. I listen to all theories and all opinions. But if you in New York and your family is from New York and your generations go back to New York, what history and culture are you quoting when you have a Confederate flag on your license plate, on the back of your truck, the trailer of your pickup and all that stuff? Like, I don't get it. And these are cars that are parked in front of the jail. These people working in the jail. We've had tons of scandals when I was there of officers with Nazi tattoos on their necks and their hands and stuff. Some people even got fired for that. Racism is real in New York State corrections. I've had people treat me in certain ways that made me wonder, is this what it seems like it is, or am I just imagining it? And the culture of beating people up in state corrections, New York State corrections, is real. We used to use the threat, because I worked in the downstate jails, the jails that are in the Mid-Hudson region of New York. We used to use the threat of being sent to Elmira, to Marcy, to Comstock, to Attica, to Clinton, to 5 Points, which is a Supermax, or was a Supermax. I think they closed it. We used to use the threat of being sent to those jails to keep inmates in check in downstate jails. Like, if you see two inmates about to fight, I said this myself. When I was at Mid-Orange Correctional Facility, a facility that's now closed, been closed for many years, it was a medium. It was a young officer. Inmates arguing, F you, man, but I'm gonna kill you. I would quietly walk up to them. I wouldn't say, what are you guys doing? Stop that. I would just quietly walk up to both of them. I pulled them both close to me. And all I'd have to say, ladies and gentlemen, was, fellas, you at Mid-Orange, man. You got cherry blossom trees in the walkway, bro. You guys got a garden in the back where you could grow your own fruits and vegetables. They used to grow their own fruits and vegetables, all types of fruits and vegetables in the garden. You guys really want to fight and go to Clinton? You guys really want to fight and go to Greenhaven? Dudes would be like, because their machismo, their adrenaline, their anger, it's flowing. But once you say those words, they're like, nah, man. Yo, we good? Yeah, we good. You good? Yeah, I'm good. All right. And they go their separate ways. I can recall breaking up 3 fights with just those words. 3, you can't see it. I'm over here. 3 fights with just those words. Do you really want to go up north? You want to go to Comstock? You want to go to Gladiator School? You want to go to Coxsackie? You want to go to Coxsackie Gladiator School? Silence. Grown men, gangsters, thugs, murderers. You say those words, silence. I'm not threatening them. I'm not saying I'm going to send you up there so they can kick your ass. No, I don't need to say none of that stuff. I'm just telling them the road you're going on, This is the outcome you're going to get. Because if you fight, we're going to lock you up on disciplinary and we're going to ship you out because you can't be in a medium because you done had a big ass fight. And you're going to go up there and they're going to kick your ass. I didn't say that, but that's what happens in those jails. Dudes get their asses kicked every single day, and the Department of Corrections turns a blind eye. You know why? Because of control. Because of control. Because for however many years, probably even 100 years, because New York State Corrections has been around for a long time. Please hit that like button, by the way. Support the channel, hit the like button. I'm giving you guys inside information from somebody who worked there and investigated there. I'm giving you inside information. There's very few people, there's some out there, but there's very few people in this world and on YouTube who can, for this particular topic, who can tell you from an inside viewpoint the information I'm giving you. New York State Prison is one of the most organized prisons and safest prisons in the country for a reason: violence. The threat of violence. That is what keeps New York State Corrections safe. That is why you can have young ladies that's 5'2" walking around, and I say there's not that many of them. New York State Corrections has probably one of the lowest proportion of female officers, and probably, this is anecdotal, I don't know, probably the whole country. It's not a place for women. I'm not gonna lie to you. I think like last time I checked, it was like 5 to 6% of their workforce was females, and they were mostly concentrated in female prisons and in the Hudson Valley area of New York. When you start going out to the mountains, it's man's world. It's man's world when you start going to the mountains. And the ladies are so hardened. It doesn't matter if they're pretty or not. They so hardened, you would think they was a man. New York State Corrections is no joke, and is kept in order due to a culture of violence. Because the inmates understand that if you cross the line, you're going to get your ass kicked. And as long as they don't kill you, nobody cares. The news doesn't care. Why doesn't the news care? Because in most of those areas where this stuff is happening, it's small news markets where the jail literally is the life's blood of the local economy. That's another secret that New York State doesn't want you to know, if you care. Most of you are not going to care because this is local economics, local politics. But New York State jails support entire communities. Each one of these jails, they house thousands of inmates, and they have thousands of staff, hundreds of officers, thousands of support staff, secretaries, cooks, janitors, maintenance men, psychologists, doctors, social workers, drug treatment people, former addicts who now dedicate their life to getting people clean. They're employed. Local ministers, all these people get paid by the jail. Then guess what? The local economy, the milkman, the eggs from the local farms. They don't buy these things from the big corporations. Part of the deal is that they get them from local sellers. So the local farm is delivering thousands of eggs to this jail, thousands of gallons of milk to this jail. The officers all live in the region. The officers are making New York City salaries, even though they live in places where the local economy is $30,000 a year for the average income, and everybody's on welfare. But these officers are making $150,000, $200,000 with overtime. And then guess what? The jails pay taxes to the local community. A government agency paying taxes to the local community, property taxes. So the jails are the life's blood of these communities economically. So when these things happen, when the inmate gets his ass kicked, get beat up, but not enough that his life is over, like in the Robert Brooks case, they don't cover it. Because if you bring a scandal to that jail and that jail happens to close, your local economy is destroyed. Funding for your schools gets cut in half. Your police officers, your police force gets cut in half because guess what? The jail is paying for your police officers, their tax dollars. Property values go to the toilet. Why? Because those correction officers who are making $150,000 a year, you think they're going to live in the hood? No, of course not. They're living in the affluent parts of that community, or they're making affluent parts of that community. They're saying, all right, we don't have an affluent part in this community. We're all going to buy houses on these blocks here, and now those blocks become affluent places. Those correction officers are tearing down houses that's been there for 120 years and building up brand new mansions because of the amount of money they're making. Because to buy the land is $10,000 in New York. $10,000. And to construct the house is $120,000, $150,000. They're the life's blood. And so these things aren't covered. They're kept as big secrets. Look what happened in this case that we talked about. Let me bring that up. They closed Downstate. I don't know if they closed it specifically because of this, but Downstate had other scandals of excessive use of force, and now Downstate is closed. One of the newest jails in the New York State arsenal, one of the newest jails, they closed it. Millions and millions of dollars down the toilet. If they wanted to close a jail because it had high operating costs and the infrastructure was outdated, there's at least 50 jails they could have closed before they closed this one, yet they closed this one. Why? Because this one was always in the news. So why would these local news agencies cover the beatdowns that are happening in Comstock, happening in Coxsackie, happening in you fill in the blanks? Washington Correctional, 5 Points, Auburn, you fill in the blanks. Why? Because it's going to hurt their community. It's going to hurt their community. This has been happening for a long time. The only reason why we know about Robert Brooks is because he's dead. The only reason why we know about Robert Brooks is because he's dead. The inmate from Downstate, he was in the hospital, for 17 days. 17 days he was in the hospital. You couldn't hide that. And Downstate is only 40 miles, 50 miles from New York City. So you're going to have the New York Times covering this, the Daily News, the New York Post, all these national newspapers that people read across the country, even though they focus on New York City news. Everybody wants to know what's happening in New York City. So they're going to pick up a Daily News, pick up a New York Post. I remember I went on vacation to Cali and the hotel had the Daily News. They had the U.S. News and World Report. We all know about that. And then they had the Daily News and they had the New York Times. And I'm reading news that's happening in New York City. I'm like, wow, Cali people must really be interested in New York. So Downstate could not be covered up because Downstate is too close to the city. And not only that, but this guy is spending 17 days in a prison. Inside of the hospital. Most of these beatdowns is just bruises and bumps. Inmate goes to his cell for a couple of days, shrugs it off, keeps it moving. But in these two cases, they went too far. They went too far. And now we're all talking about it, as we should. But I also want to add this before I call it a day with you guys. Do not get it twisted for 1 second that these officers are not dealing with the most dangerous men that ever walked this earth. These officers are dealing with people who routinely try to stab them, kill them. These female officers are dealing with predators and perverts. I've done cases where perverts have tried to rape female officers, have ejaculated on female officers while they were sitting down, writing up their notes and all that good stuff. These are horrible people. But they don't deserve to be tortured at the hands of the state. But don't get it twisted. These are horrible people. Robert Brooks was a horrible person. He's a horrible person who deserves justice. Don't get it twisted. Don't get it twisted that the Bloods aren't in there trying to hurt officers that aren't doing anything wrong. Don't get it twisted that Tren de Aragua is not going to be in there trying to hurt people when this is all said and done. Don't get it twisted that the Latin Kings and the Nietas and the Crips and the folks, they're not in there trying to hurt officers. They are. It's just that the system allows officers sometimes to go too far. We are not like those people. We're supposed to have morality. We're supposed to have a sense of justice. We're supposed to respect the Constitution. We're supposed to respect the individual rights of everybody that we are charged to supervise. We're not supposed to act like Bloods, Crips, Tren de Aragua, Nietas, Latin Kings. We're not supposed to act like thugs. So there's no excuse for it. And I want to say one last thing. These politicians make it even more difficult because these politicians don't want law enforcement, these correction officers, to be able to lock these dangerous people in the box. Now, I've seen men spend an extended period of time in the box, and I will agree that you could lose your mind in the box. When the activists say that the box is cruel, they're not lying. The box is cruel. But what the activists will not tell you is why do the majority of people go to the box? And as a former internal affairs investigator for New York State Corrections, that's what the Office of Special Investigation is. This is internal affairs. This is internal affairs. That's what I did. I looked at why people were in the box. I sometimes put people in the box. And what we put in there, the majority of the time, were dangerous inmates that were hurting other inmates and hurting staff members. We weren't putting people in the box because they said, F you, cop. First of all, they don't talk like that in jail. In prison, inmates are not going to say F you to the correction officers. We don't have that kind of interaction. They were put in there because they were bad and they were dangerous. These officers are going to be locked up. The multiple people I've spoken to involved in this or have knowledge of this, everybody's of the same consensus that these officers are going to get locked up. End of story. There is no cover up here. The issue is the speed by which the investigation is going. That is the issue. I will say that one last time before I go to the comment section, say hi to people. And I'll take a few calls because you know what, we're actually put the phone number in there, Aki. We'll take some calls. And then we'll call it a day because it's still early. It's just we're not even at an hour yet. Understand what I'm telling you. The officers will be charged. The officers are probably going to be looking at federal civil rights charges as well. The issue is the speed of the investigation. That is what I'm being told, that people are frustrated with the speed of the investigation. I'm not being told that a good investigation is not being done. I'm not being told that people do not want to charge. I'm not being told that there's a cover-up at hand. The only thing I'm being told is that there's disagreements on how fast this investigation is going, that charges could be done right now, but people want to be slow and measured in their investigation, and some people feel like it's not necessary. These officers will be charged. These officers are experiencing death threats, I'm being told. Their lives are being threatened. They are being charged. The question is when. Even the union came out against them. And we all know how law enforcement unions are. Law enforcement unions love to defend their members because that's what they're paid to do. They love to say, well, let's wait till all the facts come out. No, the New York State Department of Corrections and Community Supervision Correction Officers Union, I think they're called NYSCOBA. NYSCOBA, the union that represents correction officers and correction sergeants, came out and said, these guys are not one of us. We do not stand by them. These men will be charged. The question is when. Looking for some call-ins. Call in to the show. Let's talk about it. 518-639-6283. 518-639-6283. I want to hear from you guys. Let's talk about it. Get this from behind me. I wanted to share that with you guys. You guys are amazing. I wanted to make sure that you guys got that information. It's from inside sources. The charges are imminent. They're going to happen, guys. The charges will happen. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm asking you guys to call in. I didn't even activate the software. The charges, so give me a second, guys. Let me get the software activated. The charges are coming, guys. But there's frustration on multiple sides as to why it's taking so long for these charges to come. So just be patient. It's going to happen. I've spoken to multiple sources. There's nobody who believes that these guys are not going to be charged. That is not even in contention. It's not even something that's being discussed in those secret rooms where these discussions are happening. Nobody is of that mind. This is New York. They're going to be charged, okay? They're going to be charged, okay? The software is now active. It is now active. So please do call in. We are taking a call and she'll take a couple of calls. The number is 518-639-6283. We can talk about this. We talk about whatever you want to talk about. We got some new Maddie stuff that's been dropped by Plunder. I want to go ahead and finish listening to her. I was listening to it last night. I fell asleep on it. Like Plunder was singing me a lullaby. What's going on? Welcome to the Strategic Eyes Show. What's your name and where you're calling from?
Hi, Strategic. My name is Paris. I'm TR on YouTube. I'm from South Florida.
Hey, what's up,
How
TR?
are you?
How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing all right, man. Appreciate your support. What you got for me?
All right. So I'm reading all the comments and, listening to the story. I feel like it's an episode of Orange is the New Black.
Okay.
How similar is it? I know that you have experience in that. So how is it really that bad?
Orange is the New Black is actually a very accurate show, to be honest with you. But they mostly dealt with like sex crimes and stuff like that, which was right up my alley.
Mm-hmm.
An interesting fact of Orange is the New Black is that the outside photos and videos, like the B footage or whatever, when they're cutting scenes,
Mm-hmm.
was actually done at Taconic Correctional Facility, which is a facility I worked at and I investigated. So they really consulted with inmates that used to be they didn't consult with inmates from Cali or Alabama or Kentucky. They consulted with New York State female inmates to kind of tell them how that stuff is. So it's pretty accurate. It's a lot. My first house was purchased off of my hard work on investigating sex crimes that happen in Taconic and Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. So I can say that, of course, there's going to be some exaggerations because it's drama and it's supposed to be TV, but it was largely accurate. It was largely accurate as to how life is in a New York State prison. Yes, it was. I'll admit it.
Awesome. Another question I have, because we hear so much about your experience. How did you get to where you are today? Like, did you study anything in school? Did you go to university? How did you get to where you are?
Well, education always has something to do with it. I didn't get my degree until I was in my 30s. I went to St. John's and I didn't finish because of economics.
Oh.
I went to St. John's University.
Yeah, it's expensive.
Yeah, very expensive. And I didn't finish due to economics. So basically, like, not to go into the whole story, but financial aid, I didn't submit a paper. So they're like, oh, you lost your financial aid for this year, which sucked because I didn't get credit for that semester that I did. They did it at the end. And then, so I'm only telling you this so you can understand the path, right? So they're like, yo, you come back next semester or we'll work it out. Get you a loan to pay for the last semester and then whatever. But then I got called for the state because I took a state test to work for the Office of Mental Health and Hygiene as a peace officer. And I was poor and I was broke, so I started working. And so I worked for the state. And then when you're working in a mental health institution, it's like, what is the career path? Well, the next thing up is to go work in a correctional facility, which is more money, So I just went to corrections. And this is where the time that I did spend in St. John's helped me out, because I wanted to go work for a police department, and I took the test for that police department. And then I also heard that there was an investigative unit. So I put my application in for that investigative unit. And the investigative unit called me, the Office of Special Investigations, but at the time it was called the Inspector General's Office, but we changed our name. And so they're like, yo, we're looking at your resume, and you're a really good writer. You're an excellent writer. Like, I write better than I speak. So I'm like, that was from going to a good school like St. John's, which is a tier 2 school. Tier 1s are like NYU and Ivy League, of course, like Harvard. St. John's is a tier 2 school. It's a really good school. And so that's the path that I went. I didn't know these were things I wanted to do. But when I started investigating, I was like, oh my God, this is my calling, to be an investigator. And I'll just finish the story for you. If you want to hang up, you can. If you want to stay on, you can. So I did that for many years, and I love being an investigator. I'm really good at what I did. Listen, I'm a public figure now. I'm on the internet. There are people I've worked with who can easily come on the internet or YouTube and say, he's a liar. He was a terrible investigator. I was one of the best. And that's not me tooting my own horn. My work speaks for itself. I was one of the best. I loved doing that job. I worked that job 24 hours a day. I would listen to inmate phone calls when I'm trying to break these cases all the way till midnight. Go to sleep, wake up in the morning, 7 in the morning, go do it all over again just to crack the case. I loved that job. But when I got promoted to senior investigator, the retirement changed. It became, you retire at 30 and 55, 30 years on the job, 55. And I was like, I don't want to work that long. And then somebody told me, like, well, if you go work police in anywhere in the state, if you go be a police officer for any agency, they have to take your time, and then you just have to retire in 20 years. And that's what made me go become a police officer. I found the best paying police agency that I could find, and they hired me. And so now, even though I don't have a lot of time as a police officer, I'm approaching 10 years, so it's been a while. I still have, I'm only a year and a half away from retiring, because they took all that time I did with corrections, which was amazing. And so I'm very grateful for that.
That's awesome.
And so that's my story,
Awesome.
really.
Thank you so much. I love your channel, and keep doing what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Keep supporting, and we'll keep coming back. Have a good one.
Thank you, you too. Bye.
All right, bye. Right. So then when I came into policing, I was like, oh boy. Did I just hang up on a person by accident? I hope I didn't. I apologize. I think I closed the app by accident. Skype. So let me bring it back, and then you can definitely please call us back again. I closed the app by accident. I'm sorry, guys. We're logging back in. All right, we're good. So we can take your call. You want to call me back? You can take your call. Somebody's like, SE, you messed up. That was Aki. So when I went to policing, guys, until this person calls back, I was like, yo, I'm just going to, I started doing real estate stuff and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what? I'm just going to do my time and retire. And I said, I'm out of here. I'm done. You know what I'm saying? And then I love being a cop. It was crazy. As soon as I got in, I was like, oh, shoot, this is awesome, man. Being a cop is awesome. Like the adrenaline rush, helping people. I was making a difference in people's lives. Yo, I had drug addicts coming back up to me a year later like, yo. Hey, what's going on? Welcome to the Strategic Eyes Show. Appreciate you for calling. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Hi, Kimberly from Kansas.
Hey, what's up, Kim from Kansas? What's happening?
Oh, not a whole lot.
All right.
First of all, did you ever watch Looney Tunes? Or do you remember who Gossamer is?
Oh, which one is Gotham? I watched Looney Tunes, but I'm not going to remember the names. Who was he?
He's that big, hairy, red one that would like always go after Bugs Bunny, I think.
Oh, of course,
He's
yes.
like just all red hair.
Yeah.
So ever since the last Matty Soto one, I came in like right at Stephon topless. and
Okay.
I can't help but picture Gossamer with that same kind of shave job since
Oh
then.
my gosh, that is funny.
And I just had to put that onto somebody else.
with,
But
with
I
his
did have-
nipples shaved, like everything is shaved but his nipples. He just like hair on his nipples. That's so weird. Such a weird
Yep,
sight.
yep.
Go ahead.
That's what I've been living with since that live. So thanks for that. But I did have a question about
Sure.
the Maddie thing,
Go for
or
it.
kind of get your thoughts. I kind of had a theory with, obviously there's that stuff about, everybody kind of thinking she was probably pregnant.
Right.
With her having just turned 13,
Uh-huh.
what are your thoughts on if Stefan, given a weird time that he came,
Mm-hmm.
if it was to pressure her to try to get an abortion? Because, you started talking about the crushes, and they have the Romeo and Juliet laws.
Mhm.
So 13 to 18, it wouldn't be a criminal issue if she were pregnant.
Well,
But
in
she would
Florida,
need that judicial. Sorry, what?
In Florida, is it that high? Because we have Romeo and Juliet as well in New York. It's not codified in law. It's just like a practice. But 18 and a 13-year-old is a freaking crime. No 18-year-old should be.
No, I'm sorry, 13 to 17.
Okay, there we go. I'm about to say,
Under
hell
18.
no. Just lock that ass
Yeah.
up. Shit. Shouldn't be having no 18 years.
Because I was
Okay.
looking into it. It was the 13 to 17.
17, yes.
But with their termination laws,
Mhm.
it's like 6 weeks. But the one thing being, if she was assaulted or if it was
Right.
incest. So I was kind of wondering if he started talking about the crushes to kind of like plant a seed that maybe it was, if she had been pregnant, that it was by a peer of her age or something like that, and was maybe going to try to pressure her to point the finger at somebody who is, within that Romeo and Juliet age range or something, or,
Right.
make false claims.
Got you.
And he came, and that whole McDonald's plan,
Mhm.
leaving so early, was to get into either a courthouse or a doctor's appointment to get that, I don't know if it's a note or, something to get that judicial approval for a termination.
I mean, that's a far-reaching theory. I will say that there's no such thing as a bad theory. We don't know. Only people who knows right now is Stephen Stearns, maybe Jen Soto, and of course our dearly departed Maddie. But I will say I don't agree with it. I don't think that he said crushes because he was trying to set the stage that she was dealing with other boys that with young boys that probably could have impregnated her or something. No, I think he said crushes, and the way he said it was from his soul, that he was jealous of the fact that there were other people who had her attention other than him, because Stephen Stearns is a classic pedo, and classic pedos, they don't view this child as though it's a child, like how we view children. They look at that child as an equal. That child was his lover. That child was his girlfriend. That child was his woman. That's how he looks at that child. He's a classic pedo. So when he thinks about her involved with other men, that's going to anger him. I mean, men, look at me. With little boys, that's going to anger him. That's going to anger him. That's going to make him feel jealousy. He's going to feel that little tingling that we feel as adults in our chests when somebody we love betrays us, or we think that somebody we love is doing something. That tingling, that nervousness, that jealousy, that anger, whatever you call that feeling, he's going to feel that for that little girl, because in his sick and demented mind, that's his normal, right? That's why that's a sickness we can't cure, that we just have to put these people on an island, on Bikini Island, and keep doing some nuclear tests on it. But anyway, the bottom line is, I don't think so. And I don't believe that the whole McDonald's charade was to somehow, I don't know, get a police report or a doctor's note, like you're saying, to kind of justify her being able to get an abortion at that age. Don't think so. I think it was a plan that was concocted by Stephen Stearns, or maybe allegedly by him and Jen Soto, to excuse why he would be leaving the house so early with this little girl when there's no history of her leaving that early to go to school, because she doesn't have to. It's one thing if she always left that early. Maybe she had like chorus or reading help or something that she got to go to school earlier than everybody else. So there's a history of cameras catching her leaving the house that early. There's no history of that. Jen Soto would get her ready right before school. Jen Soto is so lazy. She's not getting up no 2 hours before school. She's gonna get her to school right on time so she could sleep as long as she could sleep. That's Jen Soto's history.
Oh yeah.
So I believe that wasn't an excuse to concoct him being outside of the house that early. It's my opinion. My opinion is worth no more than your opinion because neither one of us know what really happened. So please do know that your theory is definitely viable. We just don't know.
Yeah, no, with that whole jealousy thing, sorry, last thought, that's kind of what stuck out to me. The same, like from Jen's end, obviously different kind of source behind it. But that's why, like, her reactions and everything in her police interview, when they showed her the pictures and everything, I can't even say, like, I think she just has I think she thinks that she cares about Maddie, but I think she has, like, a totally warped view of what love or affection is, and that's why it seemed like off. But she wasn't reacting to her daughter being abused. She was reacting to, it wasn't abuse to her. It was like she just found out that Stefan was cheating on her,
pretty much. Yeah.
And like that was just a massive, I don't know, kind of overlaying vibe. But anyway,
yeah, I agree with you.
Well, thanks.
You got it. Thank you for calling.
Have a good one.
You too. Bye. Yeah, I think that the caller said it really good. She said that she was reacting as though Stefan Stern had cheated on her. Not that he was abusing her daughter, but that he cheated on her. That was that was her disposition. That was her reaction. That was her emotions. It was almost like, well, he cheated on me. Maybe I could forgive him for that. It's not a big deal. Men cheat all the time. It's not a big deal. It is what it is. It wasn't, wow, he was destroying my daughter and he killed my daughter. I really like that the caller said that. I don't think I've ever put it that way, and we should, because I think it's accurate to say Jen acted like Stefan Stearns cheated on her, like her daughter was the other woman. It's crazy, bro, real crazy. Anybody else? Come on down and call. If you don't call, we'll end the show. I do want to relax a little bit before I got to go to work. I leave a little bit early because we got a meeting. So many meetings. You're watching this, boss. Stop all the meetings, man. Jeez, man. I got to get up, leave work, leave home earlier than I need to. Come down here. Hear people complain about stuff. Because people be complaining. They be complaining about a lot of ish. You're like, why are we complaining for? We all getting paid. We all working hard, saving people's lives, giving people justice. There's nothing to complain about. We are doing God's work, man. Stop complaining. Do the job. Feed your family. Live life, man. Am I the only person who thinks like that with work? Like, for me, man, this is the greatest work on the planet, to be able to help people. It's the greatest work on the planet. I have nothing to complain about. But anyway, let's keep going. Anybody else want to call in? Do you want to call in? Please do call in. We want to hear from you. If not, we'll call it a day, but we do want to hear from you. 518-639-6283. That's 518-639-6283. We would love to hear from you. If not, we'll call it a day. Let's see what you got. PR says, I'm a grown woman, and my parents showed more stress from me coming home after 10 p.m. than these people reacted to a child being missing. I hear that. You got some overprotective parents. Y'all, you got to get out that house, girl. You got to find yourself a good man and get out that house. Let me stop talking ish. I don't know nothing about what's going on, PR. I'm just teasing. I'm in one of my teasing moods. Let's do it. Call in, people. Aki said it. Call me now. Call. Perf says I'm in Oz, not calling. I hear you. You in Oz? You talking about the prison Oz? I love that show. That show is awesome. Perf says nearly 60. PR says she's just entering her mid-20s. Good for you, man. Congratulations. You're a youngin'. You're a youngin'. Find yourself a good career and a good man, and be fruitful and multiply. What the good book said. Perf says I have 20 kids and 21 grandkids. Gosh, Perf, you was working hard, girl. Please tell me some of those kids was adopted. Perf is not playing. You can't touch Perf. She fertile. You just, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm pregnant. Oh, that's funny. You said a blended family. That makes more sense, man. Congratulations for raising 20 kids and all those grandkids, and listen, like I'll tell you a story before I call it because nobody wants to call it. I'll tell you a uplifting story that actually contributed to me having my son. It's an uplifting story that I think all of you guys should listen to this. So I was working with another nice guy at corrections. Some of the best people I ever worked with was with the Office of Special Investigations. They're good people. Very, very, very good people. Hit that like button, by the way, if you guys don't mind. Please hit that like button. Very good people. So I wanted to have another child because the house was getting quiet. My girls, they're like into their technology. They're not babies anymore. Like they weren't babies, They're like, 8, 9 and all that. And then the teenager, I'm like, oh man, so quiet. I want to hang out with them. They don't want to hang out like that. They come through, they give me a hug. Love you, daddy. And then they go do their business. They go do what they do. I was like, yo, this house, I told mine, I said, this house is getting quiet. She was like, yo, we have children according to our finances. We don't just have kids. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. However you live your life is how you live your life. But we have children according to our finances. So we say, yo, we're doing pretty good right now. Another kid would be a strain, and also it's very expensive for health, for child care. And her mother, who helps out a lot with watching the kids, is getting older. And we didn't ask her yet, but, the consensus was, listen, she kind of helped us raise our first 2 kids. It'd be selfish to now put another grandkid on her and all that good stuff. And so we were kind of just thinking not having any more kids and just having our 2 girls, and that's it. So one day I was talking to one of my colleagues, really nice guy, really, really, really nice guy, in the Office of Special Investigations, and the topic came up. And I don't think he can have kids. And he can't have kids. And I told him, I don't think that we could afford it and whatever. And he looked at me with so much conviction and got in my face. Because this was something that was truly deep and profound to this man. He looked at me, he got in my face, and he said, strategic. This is what he said. I'll never forget it. These are his words. He's like, how many kids do we come across in this line of work who are living in decrepit environments, living with abusive parents, being ignored, being sexually abused, or just super poor, can't even afford to feed them? And their parents keep making babies. These folks have the most kids. The worst parents are the ones that have the most kids. Of course, that's not true for everybody. Just telling you the conversation we had. He's like, strategic, you are a good man. Wow. Thank you. He's like, your wife is a good woman. I said, this what he's being nice to me. He said, good people should have kids. The word? He was like, yes. He was like, God will work it out. God will work out the child care. God will work out the money. He's like, we're in a career where every year we get a raise because we're union people. We're contract people. The money will come. You're not going to make the same money now that you're going to make 2, 3, 4 years from now. He said, good people should have kids. And I never forgot that. And he said, if I could have a kid, I would. But I can't. Good people should have kids. And so I went home and I told that to my wife. I said, sweetheart, if we thinking about having a kid, then we should have a kid because good people should have kids. And I didn't tell her where I got that from, but I told it to her. And then she proceeded to assault me. But I never made a police report about it because I kind of enjoyed it. But it's not a laughing matter. Let me not joke. Definitely can't make a joke like that on this channel when we talk about people being sexually assaulted and stuff like that. So that's not a funny joke. I take that back. But we proceeded to make our baby. And now, thank God we did, man. Because he's the light of this house. Not only did he bring the spark back to this house, but he he put the spark into his sisters. So they're not just, oh, I'm just going to go in my room and just watch my iPad and all that stuff. They're out there. We're like even more of a family than we were before because he is that light that brings us all together. He's chasing when the older sister is doing what teenagers do and she's locked in her room for hours on end. He's the one that goes busts in the room without knocking, jumps on top of her, farts in her face, starts beating her up, and now she's out the room and now she wants to play and she remembers she has a family and she wants to have a good time. He does that. He's the one that when he's scared because he watched a scary movie the night before, he's going to go and climb into our bed and disrupt me and mommy's sleep. Or sometimes he'll climb into his little sister's bed because she's his big sister, but she's the middle daughter. Climb in her bed and disrupt her sleep and snuggle with her because he loves his bigger sister. We would not have had that if we never had him. And guess what? It worked itself out. We didn't ask grandma. We asked her and she said, yeah, I don't mind. And so she was happy to have the grandson. And now she's enjoying her grandson. Now, we're too old to be having kids now anyway, so we're not having no more. But now I think she's really getting older now. And you see her slowing down a little bit, no disrespect. We're going to get there too. Now, we would not be able to use her as a babysitter for an infant. Now she got a 6-year-old running around. Who cares? He comes in, he hangs out, he helps her cook, he helps her clean. He's not that much as having a infant that you have to take care of. But it's a good thing that we listened to my good friend when he said that good people should have children. So I pass that on to you guys now, to my audience. Don't be ashamed of having 20 kids. Don't be ashamed of having 5 kids. Don't be ashamed of having kids, period, if you're a good person. If you're watching this show right now and you love children and you could take care of those children and you could give those children a stable life and a good life, have kids. Have kids. Because society has a use for them. We need them. We need the future president. We need the person who's going to cure cancer. We need the person who's going to invent the better microwave. We need the person who's going to be a police officer, firefighter. We need that lawyer. We need that judge. We need that janitor in a hospital who is trained to disinfect the rooms. Look how important people are. You think that doctor's important, who's going to open your body up and do the surgery is going to save your life, and that nurse that's going to assist that doctor, you think they're the most important person in the room. No, they're not. There's somebody who gets paid solely to disinfect the tools that they're using to cut in you that they used a few hours prior on somebody else's body. So if that person who's paid a whole lot less than those doctors and nurses don't disinfect those tools, guess what? You're going to die from sepsis or you're going to contract something that you didn't have before. That person's important too. Maybe your child might grow up to be that person or that janitor that has to come in and disinfect all the blood from that surgery or that death, that gunshot victim that come in there and they're trying to save his life and they're doing CPR on him and the blood is squirting all over the place. That janitor has to remove the blood from the ceiling, remove the blood from the walls, remove the blood from the floor, so that room is now disinfected and clean so that when you come in there, you don't catch nothing, you don't get sick. Everybody's important. So your child may not grow up to be the doctor and the lawyer. They may just grow up to be the janitor or the UPS guy or the FedEx guy, but those people are important too. So please remember this. It doesn't matter where you are on the economic ladder. Good people should have kids if they can and if they want to. Don't ever be afraid to make life. Life is beautiful. All right, so we'll read the last comment, which is a super chat, and then I'll get out of here. Tori says, listen, stop cuz my husband's over here trying to convince me that we need more kids. God bless your family, Strategic. Listen, Tori, I say this with all due respect. Give it up. Let my man have a good night. Anyway, you guys are the best. Thank you so much for supporting the channel, Tori. Thank you for everybody who are members who are here and everybody else who's watching it and showing us love. I do appreciate you guys. You guys are what keep this show going. I see you guys on the next one, man. We get that outro ready. Strategic is out of here. Peace.